Hello everyone, Vikram here. Now we are going to listen to podcast news which includes important national, international and business, economy, news. While walking in the morning or evening, while cooking, cycling or during free time you can listen. It will enhance your learning and understanding of various accents and pronunciations. Listening improves the quality of communication and comprehension. Before going ahead, I would like to welcome you all to the virtual school. A new way of learning and teaching, with the vision of Let's Grow Together. Our mission is to learn how to learn and teach how to teach. So stay tuned. And here we go. July 7, 2021. Important national news. Amid cabinet reshuffle buzz, 8 states get new governors. Union Minister Thawarchand Gehlot appointed Karnataka governor. Special correspondent, New Delhi. Ahead of a much-anticipated cabinet reshuffle, the Rashtrapati Bhavan on Tuesday announced a slew of gubernatorial appointments, including that of Union Minister for Social Justice and Empowerment Thawarchand Gehlot as the governor of Karnataka, replacing Vallabhbhai Vala. This was the surest sign that a cabinet reshuffle, regularly postponed since the COVID-19 outbreak in 2020, will finally take place as early as Wednesday evening. Former MP and former BJP president of the erstwhile combined state of Andhra Pradesh K. Hari Babu was appointed the governor of Mizoram, while senior BJP leader and former tribal affairs minister in Gujarat Mangubhai Patel was named the governor of Madhya Pradesh. Former Speaker of the Goa Assembly Rajendra Arlikar will be the governor of Himachal Pradesh. Several governors saw a change in states. Former Union Minister Bandaru Dattatreya has been transferred from Himachal Pradesh to Haryana. Senior BJP leader from Chhattisgarh Ramesh Bais from Tripura to Jharkhand, Satyadev Arya from Haryana to Tripura, and BJP leader from Kerala PS Sridharan Pillai from Mizoram to Goa. While it was a fairly extensive rejig in terms of Raj Bhavans, informed sources said the cabinet rejig would be extensive as well. The Council of Ministers has around 28 vacancies, with only 53 of the 81 slots allowed under the constitution occupied. Government sources said that as many as 20 new faces would be included, and in total, around 24 ministers belonging to the other backward classes would find representation in the Council of Ministers at the end of this exercise. Among these new faces will be very young MPs, bringing down the average age of the Council of Ministers to probably its lowest since independence, said a senior government source. Sources said equal focus would be on the professional qualifications of ministers as well as community representation issues. New ministry. The government has also decided to create a separate Ministry of Cooperation with the aim of SRSE Samriddhi, prosperity through cooperatives. The ministry will provide a separate administrative, legal and policy framework for strengthening the cooperative movement in the country. It will, said government sources, work to streamline the processes for ease of doing business for cooperatives and enable development of multi-state cooperative societies. GST mop-up in June falls below 1 Indian rupee lakh Cr. It will see an uptick from July, Ministry. Vikas Dhoot, New Delhi. Goods and Services Tax, GST, collections in June fell to 92,849 Indian rupees crore from 1 Indian rupee and 2 cents lakh crore in May, marking the first time after 8 months that indirect tax collections fell below the 1 Indian rupee lakh crore mark. While lockdowns aimed at curbing the second wave of COVID-19 hit economic activity and moderated GST revenues in June, the Union Finance Ministry said the collections were 2% higher than a year ago and would improve from this month. During May 2021, most of the states/UTs were under either complete or partial lockdown due to COVID, the ministry said, citing a 30% fall in e-way bill generation in May from April's numbers. However, with reduction in caseload and easing of lockdowns, the e-way bills generated during June 2021 is 5.5 crore, from 3.99 crore in May, which indicates recovery of trade and business. It is expected that while the GST revenues have dipped during the month of June, the revenues will see an increase again from July onwards, it added. The June GST figures are related to business transactions made during May and also include taxes on domestic transactions between June 5 and July 5, due to extended compliance deadlines for taxpayers. Tax experts said the decline in GST revenues was expected. With significant relaxations in lockdown and business supplies picking up, the collections should see a definite uptick in the coming months, said Abhishek Jain, tax partner at EY. Delhi HC wraps Twitter over officer posting. Staff reporter, New Delhi. The Delhi High Court on Tuesday gave 2 days to microblogging platform Twitter to come up with a specific timeline for appointing a grievance officer in compliance with the new IT rules. It's been more than 2 weeks. If the interim grievance officer ran away on June 21, the least Twitter was expected to do was to appoint a fresh officer in these 14 days before the matter came up today, Justice Rekha Pally remarked. Twitter admitted that it was currently not in compliance with the new IT rules as it was in the process of appointing a grievance officer and a nodal officer. Mathura court rejects bail plea of Kapan Kerala journalist in jail for 9 months. Anuj Kumar, Ghaziabad. A Mathura court on Tuesday rejected the bail plea of Kerala journalist Siddiq Kapan, who has been in jail for 9 months for various offences under the Stringent Unlawful Activities Prevention Act or UAPA. In his bail order, Additional Sessions Judge Anil Kumar Pandey said, considering the seriousness of evidence, the court didn't deem it fit to release the accused on bail. He noted that the charge against Mr. Kapan was that he, along with the co-accused, promoted enmity in society and affected communal harmony. The court also said that during the investigation, incriminating material was recovered from him and that he received foreign funding for damaging the integrity of the country. Mr. Kapan and 3 others were arrested on October 4, 2020 at Mont in Mathura district when heading towards Hathras village, where a Dalit girl was allegedly raped and murdered by 4 dominant caste men. On June 15, a local court in Mathura discharged Mr. Kapan and others of charges under sections 151, 107 and 116 of the CRPC as the police failed to complete the investigation in 6 months. Describing the prosecution version as highly improbable, defense lawyer Wills Matthews reminded the court the petitioner was discharged of the offences that formed the basis of his arrest on October 5, 2020. Describing it as a fit case for bail, he said they would approach the Allahabad High Court. Release Bhima Jayan case accused, UN body. Suhasini Haidar, New Delhi. All 15 co-accused in the Bhima Jayan case should be released pending trial, said the United Nations Human Rights Chief Michelle Bachelet on Tuesday, as she expressed concern over the death of 84-year-old Jesuit priest and tribal rights activist Stan Swamy in custody. The statement from the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights, OCHR, said Ms. Bachelet was disturbed and saddened by the news of the death of the activist, and called on the Indian government to ensure that no one is detained for exercising their fundamental rights to freedom of expression, of peaceful assembly and of association. Helmets make way for wraparound safety made of strong yet tensile material. The tough turban offers Sikh riders protection. Riders sporting the new safety gear. The Moto Photo Dan Lim. Ruth Dhanaraj, Bengaluru. Vic Bath and colleague Dan Cummings at Zulu Alpha Kilo, an advertising agency in Canada, have partnered with Pfaff Harley-Davidson to create a protective material for turbans that Sikh riders can use instead of helmets. My father always dreamed of owning a Harley. It was his ultimate idea of freedom, says Mr. Bath, who is from a Sikh background. Years later, when he finally got one, I was able to see how much it meant to him. That got me thinking it surely meant as much to other members of the community in Canada and abroad. While certain provinces of Canada have made helmet exceptions for members of the Sikh community, the bike riding dreams of many are put on hold as they can't fit helmets over their turbans. Inspired by Sikh warriors of old who set out for battle wearing chainmail under their turbans, the team sought to replicate similar headgear. Roping in Spark Innovations, a product design firm, they began to research various impact-resistant materials. They finalized a composite of bulletproof fabric, non-Newtonian foam, and 3D printed chain mail. Non-Newtonian substances do not follow Newton's law of viscosity. The foam used for the turban hardens on impact. The result was a material which was tough and tensile, possessing the dexterity of fabric, the tough turban. It can be wound in any way to suit the personal style of the wearer. Keeping in mind the interest of the riding community worldwide, the team from Zulu felt it best to open source the prototype of the tough turban and release it online. We have received a lot of interest in the product from India and Thailand, says Mr. Bath. Currently, The Tough Turban is a proof of concept/prototype that is pending approval for use on the road, and the team at Zulu is working with manufacturing partners towards this next step. Crimes against women saw over 63% rise in 2021 so far. Rape cases rose to 833 this year from 580 in same period in 2020. Staff reporter, New Delhi. Crime against women in the capital increased by 63.3% in the first 6 months of 2021 as compared to 2020, data shared by Delhi Police showed. The data states that rape cases saw an increase of 43% from 580 till June 15 last year to 833 this year. Molestation jumped by 39% from 733 to 1022, kidnapping of women from 1026 to 1580, abduction of women from 46 to 159, and dowry deaths from 47 to 56. Heinous crimes. Heinous crime figure, till June 15, has come down marginally from 2,436 to 2,315. In the first 6 months this year, the city recorded 7 cases of dacoity, 196 murder, 295 attempt to murder, 942 robbery, 35 riot cases, and 7 kidnapping for ransom. In the corresponding period last year, Delhi witnessed 4 cases of dacoity, 226 murder, 236 attempt to murder, 701 robbery, 681 riot cases and 8 kidnapping for ransom, the data stated. It's pertinent to note that the number of riot cases came down significantly this year as communal riots broke out in northeast Delhi in February last year following Anti-Citizenship Amendment Act protests. According to the data, the number of non-heinous crimes has increased by 8.5%. Till June 15 this year, a total of 1,20,980 cases of non-heinous crime have been reported while the number stood at 1,11,419 last year. The data showed there were 1,217 more cases of snatching reported in 2021 as compared to 2021 with 3,829 cases of snatching this time and 2,612 in last year. The total number of cases of hurt, burglary, motor vehicle theft and house theft stood at 493, 1,173, 15,667 and 938 respectively as compared to 421, 839, 13,130, and 875 last year. The data showed that fatal and non-fatal accidents rose from 392 and 1,260 cases in 2020 to 449 and 1,497 cases this year, respectively. Relief scheme for COVID victims can launched. Families can either register on portal or empathetic Delhi government representative will visit their homes. Arvind Kejriwal. Special Correspondent, New Delhi. Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal on Tuesday urged government officials appointed as surveyors to establish a relationship with families who had lost near and dear ones to COVID-19 in the process of providing financial relief to them. 50,000 Indian rupees to each family. Mr. Kejriwal said this while launching the Mukhyamantri COVID-19 Parivar Arthik Sahayata Yojana, a social security scheme for COVID-19 affected families here on Tuesday. Under the scheme, Delhi government will disburse an ex gratia payment of 50,000 Indian rupees for each death to the family of the deceased and 2,500 Indian rupees monthly to those families who have lost breadwinners. The entire country may have seen 2 waves, but as for Delhi, this was the 4th wave. It was very severe, it was very lethal, we lost a lot of lives, a lot of children became orphans, a lot of families lost their breadwinners. There's no one to look after them now, he said. As a responsible and sensitive government, it is our duty to stand with these grieving families and provide them all the assistance we can. After a lot of discussions with our officers and the people of Delhi, we are launching the Mukhyamantri COVID-19 Parivar Arthik Sahayata Yojana, the CM said, while launching the scheme. No questions would be asked, Mr. Kejriwal assured, if the person died because of COVID-19 and the affected family would receive 50,000 Indian rupees. Additionally, he said, 2,500 Indian rupees would be disbursed monthly to those families who had lost their breadwinners to the pandemic, Children who were orphaned would be provided 2,500 Indian rupees monthly till they turn 25, Mr. Kejriwal said. 2 options to register. There are 2 options. First, families can register on the portal themselves. Second, a Delhi government representative will visit their homes. As a responsible and sensitive government, we will not wait for people to apply, we will approach them on our own as well, he said. There would not be any scrutiny. The representatives are not going to these homes to scrutinize the documents of these grieving families. If any documents are missing, it is the responsibility of the representatives and the government to make them available without putting pressure on the grieving families, he said. Referring to government representatives who will be collecting applications, the Chief Minister asked them to be empathetic and understanding towards these families. He also requested them not to put them under stress because of any missing papers, as they were already going through a lot. Save us from demolition. Khori Busti residents protesters marched to PMO to submit memorandum, appeal to repeal SC order. Khori Busti residents during their march to the Prime Minister's office in Delhi on Tuesday. Special arrangement Lakshman Singh. Special correspondent Gurugram. A large number of residents of Faridabad's Khori Busti marched towards the Prime Minister's office in New Delhi and submitted a memorandum with an appeal to save the colony from the Supreme Court-ordered demolition. Led by former Lok Sabha MP and Congress national spokesperson Udit Raj, the residents, including women, carried out a march towards the Prime Minister's office under the aegis of All India Confederation of Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribes organizations. Carrying placards that read, "Save Khori, Save Migrants," and "Please Save Khori," the demonstrators started the march from Atul Grover Road. However, they were stopped by the police at Yantar Mantar. The protesters appealed to the government to get the Supreme Court order repealed so that millions of lives can be saved during the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. Dr. Raj attacked the Haryana government, saying that the state government should have made rehabilitation arrangements before displacement, but unfortunately it did not happen. The people have built their homes with blood and sweat, which were being demolished in front of their own eyes, said Dr. Raj, adding that this would not be tolerated at any cost. The Supreme Court had last month directed Faridabad Municipal Corporation to demolish the houses in 170-acre Khori Busti on the forest land within 6 weeks. The residents have been demanding that the government should rehabilitate them or revoke the SC order to provide them relief. Forcing to vacate. Sanjay Raj, National Treasurer of the Confederation, said that power and water supply to the houses in the colony was snapped to force them to vacate their houses. Social activist Meena Verma, also part of the demonstration, said, "The third wave of COVID-19 has arrived, and in this situation it was inhumane to make thousands of children homeless. If electricity and water supply is not restored in the colony, thousands of lives will be put to danger during the pandemic." The State Secretariat of the Communist Party of India, Marxist, in Haryana has strongly condemned the illegal and inhumane actions of the state government for en masse eviction of thousands of Khori Busti residents. Super censorship. MP's panel grills ministry bill will allow government to order recertification of films. Shashi Tharoor. Special correspondent New Delhi. The Standing Committee on Information and Technology headed by Congress leader Shashi Tharoor, at a meeting on Tuesday, grilled the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting on the super censorship clause introduced in the draft Cinematograph Amendment, Bill 2021. The committee members, according to sources, asked the ministry to explain the reasons and motivation for introducing the provision which allows the government to order recertification for a film already certified by the Central Board of Film Certification, CBFC. This was the first meeting of the parliamentary panel on the bill. The ministry officials, sources said, were at pains to explain. They claimed that the bill has been misunderstood and that the ministry itself will have no powers to censor any film. The bill only allows the ministry to return the film for recertification, one of the members said, on condition of anonymity. Ministry officials also said that the clause would only be invoked if the content of a film impinged on security and integrity of the nation. Not satisfied with the explanation, the members asked why, when there were existing penal provisions to deal with such a situation, did the ministry felt it necessary to incorporate this in the bill. If any person or group feels that a film or part of it hurts their sentiment or imperils the country, they can go to court. Our basic question was why should this power to adjudicate be vested with a bureaucrat, another member said. The members, sources said, also pointed to the Supreme Court order passed in 2000 that the government could not exercise revisional powers on films already certified by the CBFC. The bill was placed in the public domain till July 2, inviting comments. Filmmakers across the country has slammed the bill, with veteran filmmaker Adur Gopalkrishnan calling it an attempt by the government to bring in super censorship. Leaders urge Kovind to act on Father Swami death. They say he was denied treatment for his various ailments. Special Correspondent, New Delhi. 10 opposition parties have urged President Ramnath Kovind to act against those responsible for foisting false cases on human rights activist Father Stan Swami for his continued detention in jail and alleged inhuman treatment resulting in his death. The signatories to a letter to the President include Congress President Sonia Gandhi, former Prime Minister and Janata Dal, S. Leader H.D. Devgovda, Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin, his West Bengal and Jharkhand counterparts Mamta Banerjee and Hemant Soren, respectively, NCP leader Sharad Pawar, RJD leader Tejavi Yadav, NC leader Farooq Abdullah, and CPI-M, General Secretary Sitaram Yechuri and his CPI counterpart D. Raja. The opposition parties said they were writing to express their deep anguish and to express intense grief and outrage at the death of Father Swami, who was jailed last October under the UAPA Unlawful Activities Prevention Act in connection to the Bhimakore Jayan case. The opposition pointed out that he was denied treatment for his various ailments, including Parkinson's. It was only after a nationwide campaign was conducted that even a sipper to drink liquids was made available to him in jail, they said. A long struggle for medical bail. 6 more accused senior citizens in the Bhimakore Jayan case battle ailments. Sonam Sahgal, Mumbai. The death of 84-year-old tribal rights activist Father Stan Swami in a Mumbai hospital on Monday from ailments exacerbated by his incarceration without bail in the Bhimakore Jayan case, has turned the spotlight on the other accused in the case who remain in jail with medical conditions. The Bombay High Court and the Special National Investigation Agency, NIA, court have denied several interim medical bail pleas of the 6 senior citizens with comorbidities over the past 3 years. Poet Varavara Rao is 81, Anand Teltamdi, former managing director and CEO of mp3 India Limited, is 70, writer and a columnist Vernon Gonsalves is 68, civil rights scholar and journalist Gautam Navlika is 67, Shoma Sen, former head of the Department of English at Nagpur University, is 63, and trade unionist and human rights lawyer Sudha Bharadwaj is 61. Mr. Rao was granted interim medical bail of 6 months by the High Court on February 22 after it was rejected twice by the Special NIA Court. His wife, P. Hemlata, urged the court to consider his neurological and cardiac issues, along with other ailments such as piles, prostate enlargement, coronary artery disease, edema, hypertension, acidity, sinus, and migraine. Mr. Teltamdi has chronic bronchitis, asthma, chronic cervical spondylitis, supraspinatus tendinosus, and prostatomegaly. Mr. Gonsalves has hypertension and bleeding piles. Mr. Navlika has colonic polyposis, chronic gastritis, and hypertension. Ms. Sen has multiple ailments including osteoarthritis, glaucoma, and high blood pressure, and Ms. Bharadwaj has hypertension, diabetes mellitus, moderate depression, osteoarthritis, ischemic disease and tinea corporis, skin fungal infection. Treatment in jail. On May 3 this year, Ms. Bharadwaj's daughter Mahisha Singh moved the High Court seeking interim medical bail for her mother. The court, however, disposed of the case after it was informed that she had received medical treatment in jail. On August 28, 2020, the High Court rejected the second medical bail of Ms. Bharadwaj and said, she is taken care of insofar as her health condition is concerned. On May 29, 2020, the NIA court rejected Ms. Bharadwaj's interim bail plea on medical grounds due to the outbreak of COVID-19 in jail. On June 26, 2020, the special NIA court had for the second time rejected the interim medical bail pleas of Mr. Rao and Ms. Sen. Consulates remain open in Kandahar, Mysore, India. We continue to monitor the security situation. Suhasini Haidar, New Delhi. India is watching the situation in the Afghan cities of Kandahar and Mazar-e Sharif closely, with concerns for its missions and diplomatic staff there growing as the Taliban gains control over a number of provincial cities, said officials. However, the government denied it had shut down operations at its consulates there, calling reports that said India was pulling out its diplomatic personnel incorrect. The Indian embassy in Kabul said in a tweet, "Consulates in Kandahar and Mazar-e-Sharif are open, functioning. We do however continue to closely monitor the evolving security situation particularly around Kandahar and Mazar cities." Operations at India's other consulates in Herat and Jalalabad were suspended in April 2020, when all Indian personnel were brought back to Delhi due to the COVID-19 pandemic, ahead of a full security review. Afghanistan's security situation and future course are expected to come up as External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar travels to Russia on Wednesday for a 3-day visit from July 7 to 9, and meets with his counterpart Sergei Lavrov to discuss regional and international issues along with bilateral ties. The developments were also discussed in a meeting between Afghanistan Ambassador Farid Mamanzai and Foreign Secretary Harsh Shringla on Tuesday, as both Kabul and New Delhi monitor the situation in Afghanistan in the wake of the US and NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, troops pullout. Ambassador Mamanzai briefed the Foreign Secretary, FS, on the security situation in Afghanistan. FS assured our Afghan friends of India's long-term commitment towards peace and prosperity in Afghanistan, the Ministry of External Affairs said in a tweet. According to an Associated Press report on Tuesday, the Balkh provincial governor's spokesperson Munir Farhad said that Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, India and Pakistan had all reduced their strength at consulates in Mazar, and that Turkey and Russia had closed their consulates down in the wake of the growing violence around Mazar. Officials in Delhi denied the downsizing of the Indian missions at this time, but said they are watching the developing situation closely, and were prepared to ensure the safety of all Indian personnel. About 50 diplomatic staff and security personnel remain in the two consulates at Kandahar and Mazar, while the embassy in Kabul runs most of the consular operations for the country. Thank you. International news. U.S. left Afghan air base without notice. The new commander was not informed before the American troops' departure, say officials. A long war, an Afghan National Army helicopter taking off inside the Bagram Air Base on Friday after the U.S. exit. AFP. Associated Press. Bagram. The U.S. left Afghanistan's Bagram airfield after nearly 20 years by shutting off the electricity and slipping away in the night without notifying the base's new Afghan commander, who discovered the Americans' departure more than 2 hours after they left, said Afghan military officials. Afghanistan's army showed off the sprawling airbase on Monday, providing a first glimpse of what had been the epic entree of America's war to unseat the Taliban and hunt down the al-Qaeda perpetrators of the 9/11 attacks on America. The U.S. announced on Friday it had vacated its biggest airfield in the country in advance of a final withdrawal the Pentagon says will be completed by the end of August. We heard some rumor that the Americans had left Bagram, and finally by 7 o'clock in the morning, we understood that it was confirmed that they had already left Bagram, said General Mir Asadullah Kohistani, Bagram's new commander. U.S. military spokesman Colonel Sonny Leggett did not address the complaints of many Afghan soldiers who inherited the abandoned airfield, instead referring to a statement last week. Colonel Leggett said in the statement that they had coordinated their departures with Afghanistan's leaders. Before the Afghan army could take control of the airfield, it was invaded by a small army of looters, who ransacked barracks and rummaged through storage tents before being evicted, according to Afghan military officials. At first, we thought maybe they were the Taliban, said Abdul Rauf, a soldier. He said the U.S. called from the Kabul airport and said we are here at the airport in Kabul. The last U.S. soldiers are likely to remain until an agreement to protect the Kabul Hamid Karzai International Airport, which is expected to be done by Turkey, is completed. Pullout of troops over 90% complete, Pentagon. Agence France-Presse. Washington. The withdrawal of U.S. forces from Afghanistan is more than 90% completed, the Pentagon Central Command announced on Tuesday. CENTCOM said it had handed over 7 former U.S. bases to the Afghan forces and had evacuated the equivalent of nearly 1,000 C-17 air freighter loads of equipment from the country, ahead of the September deadline to complete the pullout. Amid rising Taliban wins, consulates shut down. Associated Press. Kabul. A surge of Taliban wins in northern Afghanistan has caused some countries to close their consulates in the region, while in Tajikistan, reservists are being called up to reinforce the southern border, according to officials. The consulates of Turkey and Russia have reportedly closed in Mazar-e-Sharif. Iran said it has restricted activities at its consulate. The consulates of Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and Pakistan have reduced their services, and Turkey and Russia have closed their consulates. She reshuffles PLA Border Command leadership. Su Kailing appointed head of Western Theater Command. The Chinese military's Western Theater Command borders India. Ananth Krishnan. China's President Xi Jinping has replaced the head of the military's Western Theater Command, which borders India, appointing a new general to lead the military's biggest command. Mr. Xi on Monday promoted 4 senior military officers, including one who has been at the center of the border tensions with India as the head of the People's Liberation Army's, PLA, ground forces or army in the border Western Theater Command, to the highest rank of general. Mr. Xi, who also heads the Central Military Commission, CMC, presented the certificates of the orders to them at a ceremony held by the CMC on Monday, the official Xinhua news agency reported. The promoted officers were named as Su Kailing, commander of the PLA's Western Theater Command, Wang Xiaobin, commander of the Southern Theater Command, Lu Zhenli, commander of the PLA Army, and Zhu Jiansheng, commander of the PLA Strategic Support Force. General Su becomes one of the PLA's youngest generals, the highest rank for active officers. The announcement suggests General Su has replaced General Zhang Xiudong as the commander of the Western Theater. General Zhang was appointed as commander only in December 2020, and observers said his tenure ending within 7 months would be highly unusual as per past practice. Former commander. As of Tuesday, there was no official statement on why General Zhang has been replaced and where he has been posted, although his biography on Baidu, China's Google equivalent, was on Tuesday updated to describe him as the former commander of the Western Theater. The current thinking among Indian military planners is that the April mass mobilization by the PLA and subsequent multiple LAC transgressions, coming after annual summer exercises, was likely planned at the level of the Western Theater Command, and that the higher levels, such as the Central Military Commission headed by Mr. Xi, were most likely only involved after the June 15 clash in Galwan Valley. In December 2020, 7 months into the tensions, General Zhang took over as commander of the entire Western Theater Command overseeing all its forces, replacing General Zhao Zongqi, the long-standing commander, who retired at 65. In March, General Zhao was rewarded with a post-retirement appointment as the vice chairman of the National People's Congress, NPC, or Parliamentary Committee on Foreign Affairs, a top advisory body. General Su, 59, now becomes the third head of the command since tensions began. He was appointed under General Zhang, as commander of the Western Theater's ground forces or army, on June 1, 2020, around a month into the tensions and before the June 15, 2020 Galwan Valley clash. 14 years in jail for Belarus's Viktor Babariko. Associated Press Kiev. The Supreme Court in Belarus on Tuesday sentenced a former contender in the 2020 presidential race to 14 years in prison on corruption charges in a case that has been widely seen as politically motivated. Viktor Babariko was arrested 2 months before the 2020 vote and has remained in jail since. On Tuesday, he was found guilty of taking a bribe and money laundering. The court handed him a 14-year prison sentence and a fine roughly equal to $57,000. He will not be able to appeal the court's verdict. Wreckage of Russian plane found, all 28 on board feared dead. The An-26 aircraft had gone missing on Tuesday. The site where the Russian plane crashed. Reuters. Associated Press Moscow. Wreckage from a plane that went missing on Tuesday in Russia's Far East region of Kamchatka was found around 5 kilometers, 3 miles, away from a runway at an airport on the coast where it was supposed to land, officials said. An Antonov An-26 plane with 22 passengers and 6 crew members, flying from the city of Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky to the town of Polana on the Okhotsk Sea coast, missed a scheduled communication and disappeared from radar as it was on approach for landing. The governor of Kamchatka, Vladimir Solodov, told the Interfax news agency that the aircraft's fuselage was found on land near the coast, while other wreckage was found nearby in the Okhotsk Sea. According to media reports, none of the 28 people on board survived the crash. The plane belonged to a company called Kamchatka Aviation Enterprise and had been in operation since 1982, Russian state news agency TASS reported. Technically sound. The company's director, Alexei Khabarov, told Interfax that the plane was technically sound before taking off in Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsky. A criminal investigation into the incident has been launched. Kamchatka Aviation Enterprise's deputy director, Sergei Gorb, said that the plane practically crashed into a sea cliff, which wasn't supposed to be in its landing trajectory. The plane was on approach for landing when contact was lost about 10 kilometers, 6 miles, away from Polana's airport. The head of the local government in Polana, Olga Makarieva, was aboard the flight, spokespeople of the Kamchatka government said. In 2012, an Antonov An-28 plane belonging to Kamchatka Aviation Enterprise crashed into a mountain while flying from Petropavlovsk-Kamchatsk and coming in for a landing in Polana. A total of 14 people were on board and 10 of them were killed. Both pilots, who were among the dead, were found to have alcohol in their blood, TASS reported. Israel PM suffers defeat over Arab Family Unification ban. Yamina party member votes with opposition, causing a tie. Agence France-Presse Jerusalem. Israel's Prime Minister Naftali Bennett accused his opponents on Tuesday of harming national security as his coalition failed to extend a ban on citizenship for Palestinian spouses from the West Bank and Gaza. Earlier, the coalition had sought a deal for nearly all of its members to back the ban's extension. The PM had also called for opposition right-wingers to support the measure, urging unity on national security grounds. But that failed when a member of the Yamina party, Amichai Chikli, voted with the opposition, tweeting later that the debate over the bill was proof that a government without a clear Zionist majority would be problematic. His defection left Parliament tied at 59 to 59 votes, meaning the measure would lapse later Tuesday. UK court quashes 1972 convictions of 3 black men they were accused of trying to rob a policeman. Agence France-Presse London. Appeal court judges in London on Tuesday overturned the convictions of 3 black men for attempting to rob a corrupt police officer nearly half a century ago. The Court of Appeal cleared the trio following a referral by a Criminal Cases Review Commission, and comes just over a year after the acquittals of 4 men in a similar case. The latest ruling is the third time convictions have been overturned based on the tarnished evidence of discredited British Transport Police officer Detective Sergeant Derek Ridgewell. The 3 men, all aged between 17 and 20 at the time, and 3 friends were accused of trying to rob Ridgewell in 1972 on the London Underground while travelling from Stockwell Station, South London. All bar one of the Stockwell 6 were convicted, largely on the word of the corrupt officer, who himself was jailed for 7 years and died of a heart attack in prison in 1982. At their trial, the accused told jurors that officers, including Ridgewell, who had previously served in the South Rhodesian, now Zimbabwean, police force, had lied and subjected them to violence and threats. It is most unfortunate that it has taken nearly 50 years to rectify the injustice, Julian Flaws, one of the 3 judges to hear the case, said on Tuesday. The 2 remaining members of the Stockwell 6 who were convicted have not yet been traced. Lawyers for the men said it was deeply troubling that it had taken so long for the convictions to be overturned. Ethiopia resumes filling disputed dam. Egypt and Sudan have opposed the project on the Nile. Controversial move, the under-construction Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam in 2019. Reuters. Agence France-Presse Cairo. Ethiopia has started the second phase of filling a megadam's reservoir on the upper Blue Nile, said Egypt and Sudan, raising tensions Tuesday ahead of an upcoming UN Security Council meeting on the issue. Both Cairo and Khartoum said they had been notified by Addis Ababa that the second phase of filling had begun at the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Egypt's irrigation ministry late Monday expressed its firm rejection of this unilateral measure, and Sudan's foreign ministry on Tuesday followed suit, labeling the move a risk and imminent threat. In Addis Ababa, the offices of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed and Irrigation Minister Seleshi Bekele did not immediately respond to AFP's requests for comment. The huge dam, set to be Africa's largest hydroelectric project when completed, has sparked an almost decade-long diplomatic standoff between Addis Ababa and downstream nations Egypt and Sudan. Ethiopia says the project is essential to its development, but Cairo and Khartoum fear it could restrict their citizens' water access. Both governments have been pushing Addis Ababa to ink a binding deal over the filling and operation of the dam, and have urged the UN Security Council to take up the matter. Addis Ababa had previously announced it would proceed to the second stage of filling in July, with or without a deal. Thank you. Economy news. Oil soars to multi-year highs after OPEC Plus talks collapse. Brent hits highest level since 2018 after producers fail to agree on raising output. No deal. Ministers abandoned talks as negotiations failed to close divisions within the group. Reuters. Reuters London. Oil prices climbed to multi-year highs on Tuesday after OPEC Plus producers clashed over plans to raise supply to meet rising global demand. Brent crude hit a session high of $77.84, a level not seen since October 2018, before losing momentum and easing to trade 25 cents, or 0.3% lower, at $76.91 a barrel by 11:49 GMT. U.S. West Texas Intermediate, WTI, crude futures traded up 75 cents, or 1%, at $76.91, after reaching $76.98 earlier in the session, the highest since November 2014. Ministers from OPEC Plus, which groups producers from the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, with Russia and others, abandoned talks on Monday as negotiations failed to close divisions within the group. No date for further talks has been announced. The United Arab Emirates said it would go along with output increases but rejected a separate proposal to extend curbs to end 2022 from an existing April deadline. Some OPEC Plus sources said they still believed OPEC Plus would resume discussions this month and agree to pump more from August, while others said current curbs might stay in place. Brent seen at $80/barrel. Goldman Sachs said the collapse of the talks has introduced uncertainty into the group's production path, while maintaining its view of an $80 per barrel Brent price and gradual increase in output early next year. In a sign of a tightening market, top oil exporter Saudi Arabia raised the August official selling prices of all crude grades it sells to Asia, the state oil producer Aramco said on Tuesday. China tightens oversight of firms listed offshore to improve regulation of data flows. Reuters Beijing. China will step up supervision of Chinese firms listed offshore, its cabinet said on Tuesday, days after Beijing launched a cybersecurity investigation into ride-hailing giant Didi Global Incorporated on the heels of its U.S. stock market listing. Under the new measures, China will improve regulation of cross-border data flows and security, crack down on illegal activity in the securities market and punish fraudulent securities issuance, market manipulation, and insider trading, the cabinet said in a statement. China will also check sources of funding for securities investment and control leverage ratios, it said. The move comes amid China's sweeping clampdown on its massive and online platform economy, which has been the target of antitrust investigations and penalties, as well as increased scrutiny of data security and privacy, and as U.S. China tensions have spread to capital markets. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching this video as a podcast. Do like, share and comment. Press the subscribe button and hit the bell icon to get new notifications. Thank you. Take care and stay safe. God bless you all. Jai Ma Bharti. To download news and editorials in mp3, follow us on Telegram, Virtual School Official. The link is provided in the description below.